I've been looking at the book of Acts, and I'm going to read a little bit from Acts chapter 8, verse 26. Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Go south to the road, the desert road, that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza." So he started out, and on his way he met an Ethiopian eunuch, an important official in charge of all the treasury of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship, and on his way home was sitting in his chariot reading the book of Isaiah the prophet. The Spirit told Philip, "Go to that chariot and stay near it." Then Philip ran up to the chariot and heard the man reading Isaiah the prophet. "Do you understand what you're reading?" Philip asked. "How can I," he said, "unless someone explains it to me?" So he invited Philip to come up and sit with him. So this lovely story about Philip. Philip is somebody who is mentioned a little bit in Acts, but not so much by any means as Peter and Paul. It's a lovely story about Philip. Talks about this moment that he encounters. He meets with the guy from Ethiopia who's gone up to Jerusalem, who's been a worshipper of God, clearly, but he has the prophet Isaiah. He's got certainly materials from the Old Testament, but doesn't actually know the Messiah, doesn't have any experience directly of Jesus, is certainly interested and seeking, trying to make sense of what Isaiah the prophet is saying. We have these times sometimes when, if we're seeking to be obedient to God and being available to Him, we might find ourselves in the right place at the right time, or obeying a prompt, something where God is saying to us and guiding us, saying, I want you to go here and do this. And it's very clear from this passage that clearly God sent an angel to Philip, prompted him where to go, and he wasn't totally sure about what that might look like, but he took those directions seriously. And there was a reason for it. There was a man who needed to hear the understanding about the prophet Isaiah, and goes on to explain about how Philip unpacks those verses. And the actual passage he was reading at that time was from Isaiah 53, which really explains about the Messiah, the one who's going to suffer. And the good news is explained to him through Philip, and there's an amazing story. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things just recently. I had a couple of friends who were very much involved with moments when God prompted. A friend of mine was taking a journey to go and travel to another city. They actually missed their flight, and it was quite distressing and upsetting. They ended up getting another flight, and then their phone died, and they were kind of, feeling quite upset by the whole episode. But on the flight that they got on, they got chatting to somebody who was very kind, and they started talking about the prophetic. And as a result, they had a really good conversation. And this friend actually then asked a number of us, have we got something prophetic for the person they met on the flight? Because they were quite interested in about all these things. So what seemed to be quite disastrous and seemed to be a bit of a bad day turned into a very interesting and special day. Then I was thinking about the other week. I was going to visit a particular place, and I was due to be there a bit later on in the day. I went past there to try and work out where it was. I had a bit of time in hand, no sort of real set appointments. I thought, well, I'll pop in somewhere and maybe I'll sit down and catch up with a few emails and messages and so on. And so I started walking along the harbour side, and I went sort of quite far on the harbour side. I was right at one end of it, and I went near some flats where some friends live, who I visited and know quite a lot. I pray for them quite a lot. And I was thinking in my mind, it'll be kind of quite nice to see them, but I feel a little bit awkward about just knocking on the door spontaneously. But they're on my mind. And suddenly the wife appeared. She was just coming towards the flats with their little one. And I shouted out, "It's going to be okay." And I know they've gone through quite a few pretty challenging circumstances. So we have been praying for them about various things. And then at that moment also the husband came in the car. He was just arriving back as well, and they were having to rush off somewhere together. But in a short moment, I had a little bit sort of tiny catch up with them, which was real God timing. I went into a cafe nearby. I thought, I'll just try that cafe up there I'd been to before, see if they're still open for a while. Went in there, found another friend of mine who I didn't know that they were meeting somewhere down there, and they were meeting with someone from their workplace. Ended up having a really good conversation with the two of them about some quite relevant things. And actually, as I approached my friend in the cafe, he said, "Oh, I was just looking at this message, and these people obviously got quite a concerning health thing going on, and I was just looking at the text, and then you appeared." And he was kind of conscious that I pray for people quite a lot and so on, so he felt it was quite timely. And so I'm praying that God will really intervene in their lives, and my other friends, that God will keep working in their lives, of course, as well. And I know a number of times I've bumped into one of these friends particularly, and I felt like it's often been at significant moments, and perhaps a reassurance and encouragement to them that God's on their case, and often been very timely moment. And it's interesting that somebody that the couple, I pray for them pretty regularly, actually, very very regularly, and it's interesting that they often in my prayers, and then often bump into them. And so I'm giving those little stories, just scenarios, because I think it's a bit like Philip. One of the things I've been praying for recently is just to be sensitive to God's timing and His planning. And I've found more recently I've had perhaps more flexible time. Some things have not worked out, and there's been my schedule has been a lot more open, and I've had to sort of plan my own schedule quite a lot at the moment. In terms of making phone calls or doing emails or chasing up things or whatever. But I've had a lot of flexibility in my time frame to do that. Some appointments happening at different times, but on the whole, perhaps in charge of my own time quite a bit in terms of how I plan it. And so in that, I try and sort of say to Lord, okay, Lord, where do you want me to be? And I'm often going to a coffee shop or something to look at emails or messages and ring people and so on, and using that as a bit of a base. So I'm asking the Lord often, okay, Lord, show me what your plan is. And so I just want to pray that God would guide us in His steps and lead us in His plan, and we would be sensitive to His divine appointments in our own lives, and walk with Him wherever He wants us to go.